Flossing in the morning is a really great way to keep your teeth healthy and start the day. But when you're through, here's what you do. Throw it in the trash, don't flush it. There's a problem lots of people don't know, called sanitary sewer overflow. A condition buried deep in the ground, inside of pipes where bad clouds are found. It's a problem we can all help solve, so throw it in the trash, don't flush it. Baby wipes, bandages, cotton pads, paper towels, dental floss, clog up bad. Medicines, kitty litter, cotton swabs, hair. Throw them in the trash, don't flush it. It just takes a second to do the right thing, so toss it and let's keep our pipes clean. Throw it in the trash, don't flush it. If it's not toilet paper, don't flush it. Even if it says you can, don't flush it. If you're having any doubts, don't flush it. One more time, don't flush it.
Psst, hey, would you do me a favor? Grab your phone or smart device and open up that camera. Then point it right here at the QR code. Do you have it? I'll wait a second. When you see the link pop up on your screen, give it a tap. You ready? Boom! Welcome to the Hillsborough County official YouTube channel. We've got all sorts of videos here, all about what makes our community such an awesome place. From local events and community highlights to what's in the perfect Cuban sandwich. We've got it all. We're always adding new things, so while you're here, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll never miss a new video. Here's that QR code again, just in case you missed it. Go ahead and check it out. Ooh. This must have fallen out of that video. This really is the perfect Cuban sandwich.
These are the jobs you may not see every day, but just know we're working hard to make Hillsborough County a better place to live, work, and play. Subscribe to our YouTube page for more great county-related videos, only on HTV.
Good morning and welcome to the August 10th, 2023 quarterly meeting of the Hillsborough County Tourist Development Council. Before we go over the minutes, can the clerk have a roll call to establish attendance?
In this case, I'm the clerk.
You're the clerk. We're wearing many hats today.
You may have noticed we moved to the penalty box.
I did notice that.
It's not that we're smaller, it's just, can you hear me okay? My mic's on. Hello. Okay, roll call. Hagan,
Here.
Castor.
Here.
Antonaccio. Here. Collier.
Here.
Gonsmar Williams. Here. Kilton. Nate, are you on virtual? Okay, not here. Mackinac.
Here.
Manthe.
Here.
Morrison.
Here.
Placencia.
Here.
And Ross. Okay, we have a quorum in person. We can move forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Review of the meeting minutes and approval of past minutes. Anything we need to go over there, Ron?
Didn't receive any comments. If there aren't any, I ask that you move the minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
Got a motion to approve by Mr. Placencia, second by Mayor Castor. Do we do a roll call vote, or do we just raise our
Just
hand?
do a voice vote.
Voice vote. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. This time, we have room for public comment. Is anyone here to wish to speak to the board
We have no public comment.
on that? Okay, Ron, get the administrative report.
Okay. Again, can you hear me okay, Lou? Okay. Somebody might want to adjust the volume if they can. So if you could turn to the financial report tab of your document, or also, Yasmin, can you bring up the financial report? Okay, see if we can make that a little bigger. While they work on that, I'll go ahead and move forward. This is your third quarter financial report for the first 3 cent. Again, the only thing of note here that I'd mention is we still have outstanding the Plant City complex, but we've been in conversations with them. Actually, they're close to completion. And so they've sent invoices in and we're processing them. So when you see the fourth quarter end of year statement, we will have made that $500,000 payment for Plant City. So that will occur in the fourth quarter financials. Probably the other thing of note here is if you want to look down at the collections, we're on the far right side, 25 million. And if you see our budgeted expenses, they're about 25 million. What that really means is the last 3 months of collections will basically be unencumbered. They'll be dropped to the bottom line. So that's a good thing. And I'm sure we'll have conversations about that in the November meeting. If you could move to the next page, and this is the 6th cent by itself. Again, we have different participants in that one. And we're still making our pro rata payments to the Visit Tampa Bay. We've already made the payments on the Tampa Convention Center for the year. And as I've mentioned a number of times, we show the encumbered contractual number for the cultural and attraction base because those are construction projects. So rather than showing a cash, we wanted to show the encumbrance. And so again, what you'll see is we're going to have a surplus of collections over what we have budgeted. And so that's the things of note for the financials. If you could turn to the next page, as you're used to seeing, these are the collections. And so the first one is the entire 1 through 6 cent. The operative information here is June and July for the first time. We actually were lower than the month previous year. both in June by 2% and in July 5%. But as you'll hear from Santiago, we expect the last couple months to pick up again because of significant convention bookings and activities. And as you well know, the summer is our slowest. And lastly, remember we're comparing to a record-breaking previous year. So 2% and 5% negative over those months previous is still of some note. And we're 14% ahead of last year. So we're still on pace to break last year's performance. If you turn to the next page, nothing different on the calculations, but this is the 3 cent. So we're gonna end up at about 32 million, probably somewhere in that range when we finish out the year. But you can see we're at 28.3 now. Next page, if you look at the 6 cent by itself, 9.4. So we're going to be exceeding obviously 10 million and probably closer to 11 million. So that's a record-breaking performance. And then the last page, you see the graphic presentation that we've shared with you each time. And even though we have a dip below last year's, following the green, I think we're going to see a rebound in the last 2 months. And of course, it's still on pace to be a record year at this juncture. With that, I would entertain any questions, and I've asked you to approve the financial report.
Any questions, comments for Ron, the quarterly report? Not, we have a motion to accept the report. Motion, Mr. Morrison, second, Mr. Collier. No comments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next, I guess we have Santiago from the Convention and Visitors Bureau to present his quarterly report. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Let me start out by thanking you for your support, especially your financial support that makes a lot of what I get to talk about at these meetings possible. And got a speeding ticket for my presentation at BOCC, so I'm going to try to go within the speed limit today, although they're letting me drive the presentation because they enjoyed my driving last time. So I'm going to try to move as quickly through this and add a little color maybe to some of the information that Ron presented. So if we could bring up the slides. When we look at the third quarter performance, and we're talking about Smith Travel Research numbers, Ron is talking about collections that are a month in the rears, as I've always liked to remind everyone when we talk about the Hillsborough County bed tax collection, taxable revenue collections. You see there for the third quarter how we stack up against Florida and the rest of the country. And something that has been predicted in the past by some members of this board was that this summer the rest of the country is hungry. They are still in recovery mode, and so they're investing a lot in bringing back visitors. And we kind of saw, we try to pin the issue on some one thing, but there are always a number of variables at play on why May, June were a little bit soft for us compared to a very strong April. We had a very strong April, which actually helped this quarter. May and June were a bit soft, and there are a number of variables we believe after doing some research that affected May, June. Number one, again, the country's hungry. They're trying to get visitors back to their destinations. So we're starting to see that. You're starting to see that still with the U.S. recovery now hovering around 66% occupancy for the quarter. So we're starting to see that. The second thing is that I think a lot of Americans in our domestic leisure travel bucket are traveling internationally. I think everyone I talked to last month have been to Italy. I don't know what was going on in Italy, the pizza, I have no idea, but lots of folks were going to Italy. My neighbor, everyone just came back from Milan. Oh, just came back from Rome. So we're seeing a lot of that domestic leisure base moving internationally now. They feel the freedom to get out. And then thirdly is something that Ron mentioned early on. We keep comparing ourselves to record performance during maybe what some other folks would have considered an abnormal bounce back year. And so we become a victim of our own success because we compare ourselves to our very best months. And last year, it just so happens that May and June were extremely strong. Now, having said that, I can tell you July, double-digit, almost 15% revenue growth, and August through the first couple of weeks, almost 14% revenue growth. So when we look at where we were last year at this time and where we are this year, as Ron mentioned, we're 14.5% higher, and we're at $945 million plus in hotel taxable revenue, which almost matches last year with 2 months left to go. So we predict we'll be well over $1 billion in hotel taxable revenue, somewhere between $1.1 billion and $200 million. So the prospects of another record-setting year are very, very strong. We're putting a lot of information in slides just to condense the number of slides. If you look at this slide, you're looking at us compared to ourselves over the last 2 fiscal years for the third quarter, and obviously occupancy is right in the neighborhood, but as you see, revenue, average daily rates, RevPAR, a little bit better. So you're starting to see still great performance. And then when you look at all of our sub-markets for the third quarter, you have some great data there that speaks to increasing revenue numbers, a little bit flat for this quarter, but again, you're talking about May, June, which were a little bit different for us this time of year. When you look at the comp set, we not only like to look at ourselves years past, we look at how everyone else is doing, and you see there how we stacked up on occupancy in the comp set, where we are with average daily rates in the comp set for this quarter, and where RevPAR is. But year to date, we're leading the comp set. So when we look at occupancy, RevPAR, ADR, year to date through 3 quarters, we're still near the top in every one of these variables, these key performance indicators. Taxable revenue, we've talked about a little bit. This is for the quarter. These are collections March through May that represent April through June. And I think most of our hoteliers understand how that functions. And then you see what I was talking about year to date compared to prior years on taxable revenue and bed tax collections, again, for the quarter, and then as well year to date with, I'm going to predict here that July, August, and September will see the line going north again, based on what we've seen here with all of the conventions and the groups, and as we'll talk about here. So economic impact as far as production, 124 groups affected for future years during the third quarter. If you look at actualized groups, we had 83 groups for the quarter. With that estimated economic impact for the destination, you see some of those groups that were here during the third quarter. And then, of course, we always like to bring you up to date on our digital campaigns. And the number that jumps out there is the 98 times the dollar on return on ad spend. So for every dollar spent on these campaigns, we're seeing $98 on that return. This is a quick video. If you don't like to see a scantily clad cowboy, this is Times Square, and we've got some of our Uber and Lyft cars swarming the area. So can we play that video upstairs, please? We were one of the first DMOs to actually wrap Uber and Lyft cars. Now we're one of the first to wrap premium all over the car. So if you're in a high rise and you're looking down at the vehicles, you see Visit Tampa Bay marketing, which is genius on the part of our team. I think we have another video, very short video, and this is an activation we did in Philadelphia. We're actually doing the same activation right now in Atlanta. We take this this traveling booth, have it at a trade show, and then we get a bigger bang for the buck because then we roll it out in the city we're in. So this is actually in Philadelphia. If you could please roll that video. again, a great idea by our marketing team to have this mobile booth that we can take to a big trade show. We were just at ASA, the American Society of Association Executives. We had it on the trade floor show, and everybody was jealous because we're looking down on everybody. So imagine us looking down on some of these other major destinations, and then after the show, it just rolls and does marketing throughout the city. So we're using that template in lots of other places we're going to here shortly. And then we've been on the road. Next slide. This is at IPW, our international trade show here in the U.S. This was in San Antonio, where again we had a first of a kind 60-foot by 40-foot video wall that had a 45-minute movie of Tampa, Hillsborough County rolling through. So I wanted to sit there and videotape it, and I said, unless you're going to spend 45 minutes standing in front of the screen, you won't capture the entire movie. So again, the talk of that trade show, and you see we're going to start taking animatronic roosters and chickens with us to scare folks on trade shows, along with our really cool sneakers. And then we've really been out on the road. We just did something with National Geographic UK, huge culinary event. You know, we're getting a lot of buzz about, you know, our cuisine here. And so we did a great event in the UK. And then finally, just before we were in Atlanta, we were in Dallas, where it was announced that Destinations International will be having their conference here next year. And so we had our friends from the crew join us on stage, and what it doesn't show is that I started out looking like a cowboy with a cowboy hat, and they barged in on my speech and stole the cowboy hat, threw it in the audience, and put a pirate hat on me and said, you're coming back home and you're not staying here in Dallas with these folks. So again, having a lot of fun bringing conventions and big groups to the destination. So that is it. I'm not getting any speeding tickets today, I don't think. So, Mr. Chairman, if there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer if I can.
Well done, Santiago. I know today we didn't have the time challenges and technological issues that we had at the BOCC meeting, but great job. Any questions or comments for Santiago? Mayor Castro?
I'll make just a quick comment, and I see that Chris is in the audience. We actually did an economic trip over to London with a number of officials from Pasco, Pinellas, and Hillsborough County, and we were up in the Shard restaurant, and someone said, hey, look, and we looked down and saw the Visit Tampa Bay on the roof of one of the cars. You may have planted that, Santiago, I'm not sure, but...
We haunt Craig Richard. If Craig Richard's on the road, we want to make sure he sees us so that he can talk about Tampa, Hillsborough County for economic development. So we got a spy on Craig, so we follow him around.
He definitely was there, so... Job well done.
Thank you, Mayor.
I can remember several years ago now, but I was in Chicago and I remember seeing a billboard. It might have been one of the ones that said it's 90 degrees in Tampa right now and it's 30 in Chicago or whatever. But I've seen that as well when I'm traveling. It's always nice to see.
Yeah, they don't have a good sense of humor when we do that. There in Boston, we get real snarky emails when we talk about how great it is here.
All right. Any other comments? If not, can we have a motion to accept the report? Motion, Mr. Placencia, second, Mayor Castor. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your support. We really do appreciate everything you do for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Santiago. Keep up the great work. Next, we have an update from the airport from Chris Menier. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Chairman Hagan, Mayor Castor, distinguished members of the Tourist Development Council. I'm Chris Minner, your Executive Vice President at Tampa International Airport. My teams and I are responsible for air service development, marketing, communications, real estate, and concessions and commercial parking. So basically, if it brings people to Tampa Bay, or it increases global access, or it generates revenue, that's what we're all about. And it really is a privilege to be here with you. Thank you for the invitation to give you an update on everything we've got going on at Tampa International Airport. I've tried to make sure that we are narrowly tailored on our slides, and so if you have any questions, I'll look forward to addressing those. Everyone here is intimately familiar with Tampa International Airport. Thank you for your business, and thank you for your service to our community and everything you're doing to drive more passengers at TPA. You can see this year about 23.5 million passengers. Next year we're on target for 25 million. Spring break, no surprise, is the busiest time of year for us, and you can see that March is our busiest month. September, when all the kids go back to school and there's a little bit of a lull in business, that affects us as well. 4 airsides, 58 gates, 66 restaurants, bars, and shops. We love our Columbia out at Airside E. It's always thriving. You can see 23,000 parking spaces. Sadly, at the moment, a number of those are under construction, so we appreciate your patience as we impact those facilities to make them better into the future. Also, just want to mention that in addition to Tampa International Airport, the Hillsborough County Aviation Authority is responsible for 3 general aviation airports that relieve the needs for corporate aviation and the smaller aircraft that need to go and come from our region. So you can see Peter O. Knight Airport just south of us. You've got Tampa Executive and then Plant City Airport. And together, they're worth, as you can see, more than $500 million a year of economic impact, which is an important business for all of us. So our operations, according to the latest numbers just released from FDOT, we generate about $11.3 billion annually of economic impact. Those numbers are lower because actually these numbers were calibrated on pandemic era data, and so we look forward to the next iteration of this study. What is interesting though, when I got here about 13 years ago, we were about the 30th busiest airport in the nation. As you can see, we've moved on up. 26th as our community has grown and you and your team have done a better job of bringing people to our region. 82,000 jobs in the community and about 10,500 people in the community employed by what we do. Southwest Airlines continues to be the #1 airline at TPA. Their market share about 1/4 of all traffic, and they're a wonderful partner for us. Delta and American are tied, basically in second place with about 17 to 18%. And depending on season, they actually trade for that #2 position at TPA. You can see 93 nonstop destinations, 18 of those being international. And then those are the top 10 markets that you see on the right. No probably big surprises. We're very popular in the Eastern Seaboard, in the Midwest. International is a growing part of our business, but doesn't peak into the top 10. Now, part of our success in the way that we're able to grow is that we recognize, although we're located in Tampa, and we're Tampa International Airport, we are the gateway to the west coast of Florida. And so you can see when you expand that out to the 2-hour drive circle, it's 5.2 million people that live in this community. And then, of course, all the inbound visitors, which account for more than half of total traffic at TPA, that are coming in to go to all of those wonderful areas. Now, Hillsborough County represents the largest share of our passenger traffic. You can see 41.5%. When you aggregate that with Pinellas, it represents almost 70% of total traffic, 43,000 daily passengers going and coming from the airport. Now, this gives you a look at our total passenger traffic history going back to 2014. The effects of the pandemic, just like you saw on your lines of business. What I'm really proud to tell you is that right now we are definitely on target to deliver that 23.2 million passengers for this year. And next year, based on guidance that we've received from the airlines that serve TPA, we expect to exceed 25 million passengers. That will be another all-time record for us, up about 8.5% from where we are today. Now, Santiago talked about international traffic, and yes, we do have people from Tampa Bay that are traveling internationally, but we've got a lot of folks that are taking advantage of new international flights coming to Tampa and the entire region. So you can see year over year up 44%. Versus pre-pandemic, we're actually up 10%. So we've been doing these pre-pandemic comparisons. We are now solidly back into growth territory, and we appreciate your partnership to make that happen. Now, this is the route map. This map looks a lot different than it did when I got here 13 years ago. The thing I'm most proud of on this map is all of those yellow dots. Those represent the markets that this market didn't have nonstop flights to before the pandemic began. And if you count them all up, there's 20 of them. That makes us one of the leading airports in the entire nation for expanding global access for our region. That includes international and domestic. Now, we work super closely with all of our community partners. That is the recipe for our success, and we are always looking at what are the top Unserved markets is one of the biggest questions that we get. So you can see on the domestic side, California continues to really dominate. Sacramento, John Wayne Airport down south of LA, Albuquerque, San Jose, and Reno. On the international side, Rome, believe it or not, Santiago is not whistling Dixie. It actually is the time to go to Italy. But Amsterdam, you may recall, Delta Airlines launched those nonstop flights right before the pandemic began. They got off to a roaring start. But for the pandemic, I'm sure they would still be here. Delta Airlines, unfortunately, had to sell some of the aircraft that they were using to operate that flight. But we are in talks with them and their partner, KLM, over in Europe about getting that market restarted as soon as possible. I mentioned we are definitely on a growth path, and so you can see here Lynx is a brand new airline for us at Tampa International Airport. They're going to be bringing in Toronto and Montreal. We see Silver continuing to grow. Breeze, who you may recall, not only were we a launch market for Breeze Airways, we were the launch market. The very first flight they ever operated commercially was from Tampa to Charleston. They have continued to grow. They now, I believe, are up to 15 markets, but you can see Pittsburgh, Columbus, and Charleston adding in there, as well as WestJet. First ever in the history of Tampa Bay having a nonstop flight to Calgary. And so Alberta is a growing market, and we're delighted to bring people here, especially in those winter months. So as you look to the end of the year, you can see these are all the airlines and the markets that we're adding in. We love to celebrate those out at the gates. We bring in beautiful cakes and celebrate that. But it really drives awareness at the network planner level back at the airlines, who are making the decisions about where we're going to put those new aircraft that they have available, and we appreciate that. That growth, what does that look like? In the month of August, we're getting busier. You can see 15% more seats than we had before the pandemic began, and then we're roaring into September with 20.3 and more than 21% in the month of October. And that happens because the airlines are making a bet. They're investing seat capacity at Tampa International Airport, knowing that if they do that, then our community is going to pull together and help ensure their success. Part of how that success is ensured is through our partnership with Visit Tampa Bay. And so I couldn't help myself but to go back and, across more than a decade, these are just some of the instances where our friend Santiago Carrata came out to help tell the story of Tampa International Airport. I've traveled to South America, Canada, all over North America and Europe with Santiago and Patrick Harrison and other members of his award-winning spectacular team. But just no one, and I say this, having served 4 other communities doing substantially similar work, there is no Convention and Visitors Bureau doing better work than your team right here at Visit Tampa Bay. Even if it means that Santiago has to put on flannel and pitch Seattle. The picture in the lower right, that's not him singing. It was him actually next to Pedro Halbron, who is still the CEO of Copa Airlines. He hosted that event at the Columbia Restaurant, Airside E, Tampa International Airport. That was the CEOs of all the local Latin American businesses, just talking about what Copa Airlines was going to mean to our community. And you look at how they've grown, more than doubling their capacity in and out of our market. It really makes all the difference in the world. I want to pivot now to talk about growth and modernization. We are in the middle now of implementing the 3rd phase of our master plan. So you may recall back in 2013, we got underway with a massive expansion of our main terminal. We implemented the new rental car center and the train SkyConnect system that connects all of that together. That was completed on time and on budget. Phase 2, we've now completed our Blue Express curbsides. Up to 40% of the traveling public is now using our Blue Express curbsides. And that creates relief at our traditional curbsides and makes sure that even during our busiest periods, we don't have those backups out onto the parkway that you may have experienced maybe during the holidays and other peak seasons. Our Red Express curbsides are underway right now. And the thing that we're most excited about, our board just last month approved our go-forward plan with Airside D. So we have our design builder on board, we've issued our contract for design, and we're looking forward to delivering that at the end of 2027. Now, we're wrapping up our master plan process right now. What you see on the slide in front of you is our long-term anticipated growth. FAA requires every 5 to 7 years that we look at unconstrained growth for the region and what would that mean for Tampa International Airport. And what you can see is that by 2042, if we continue to grow at the modest rate that we have seen over time, that's going to mean almost 40 million passengers. And so it's incumbent on us as the Aviation Authority to make sure that we are delivering the facilities just in time to be able to meet that need. We talked about Airside D, so the design builder selected and awarded, and so we're actually 4 underway. And again, we're looking forward to delivering that in 2027. I mentioned the master plan. If anybody is interested in the technical details of all the different facilities that we have and how we're going to grow this airport, you have this link that's in your packet. I encourage you to go online, and if you have any comments, we're really eager to hear them. I'll wrap up then just with some thank yous and awards. The CODA Awards we're really delighted with. You can see our Flamingo, Phoebe, is a gift from Matthew Mazzotta. And so this work that he entitled Home really has captured the hearts of the travelers at Tampa International Airport. The CODA Awards are basically the Oscars of public art. And through their process, they found that we were the 2nd highest ranked for all public art projects last year. And so we're expecting an announcement on an award coming later this month. You saw J.D. Power rated us #1 airport in all of North America, and the other accolades just continue to pour in. We stand on the shoulders of giants. The design of Tampa International Airport was groundbreaking when it opened more than 50 years ago. And so we are really proud as a team to continue to deliver the very best customer service and to be the gateway to the west coast of Florida. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. Delighted to take any questions that the team may have.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. Appreciate the update as well as your comments about Santiago and the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Very much appreciate that. Any questions or comments for Chris? Mayor Castor?
I'd like to make just a couple of comments as a member of the board, which whatever the designations are, you know that I think it's the best airport in the entire world. But when you look at some of the things that I know we're all thrown off by Santiago's mullet in the one photo, and rest assured he will bring that back without a doubt. But when you look at the airport, really the Phoebe, but looking at the art throughout the airport is just stunning. And the design of the airport with the hub and spoke where individuals can come in, stress-free, and it's just an amazing facility. And the team has done so much to continue along that path of stress-free, efficient travel that I feel needs to be recognized. With I call the drop-offs, the drop and roll, the express lanes in the blue, it's nice to see that more and more individuals are utilizing that. Once the red comes online, we'll see that occurring as well. I also want to give a shout out for what the airport has done for local and minority-owned businesses as well, ensuring that there's a percentage that is represented throughout the airport to have the flavor of Tampa in our airport, I think is critically important. And I just had a conversation with Roberto Torres this morning. I've stood outside of the Columbia and Airside E whenever I fly Delta, explaining to everyone who walks by what a Cuban sandwich is and how wonderful that the experience is if they decide to utilize it. So I just want to say thank you to you, Chris, to Joe, and the entire airport staff for all that you do. And I know that Joe, he can get the designation as the #1 airport nationally or in the entire world, but he's such a practical guy. What means the most to him, and he hasn't said this, I'm just speaking for him, is that #1 award on the bathrooms, the cleanliest, right, most efficient restrooms, because those are the practical issues that the people take for granted each and every day. So I thank you and the team for all that you do. It is an incredible experience, and I hear about it from everybody who comes in town, that the airport really is that welcome mat into our community, and it says welcome to Tampa Bay. So thank you.
Well said, Mayor Castor. Ms. Collier?
Just since we got you, we could ask the hotel question. I started my career with Marriott, and one of my first jobs was at the airport Marriott. Actually, Lou, I was his landlord. He had his office there, and being at the airport, having your office there, like the best thing ever. I'm just kind of wondering, what's the plan for the hotel situation at the airport?
Great question, Joe. Airport Marriott's been there since, I think, the year after the airport opened, and it thrives. We know from the STAR data that it's one of the top performing hotels in the entire West Shore Business District, and the level of convenience for folks that are traveling to and from Tampa Bay really is extraordinary. That, in addition to all the attorneys that love, renting out all of those little offices to be able to do depositions and those kinds of things, makes it exceptionally convenient. We had at one point in the master plan process thought that we would need the site that the Airport Marriott is on for future development, but we were able to identify a different path. And so we're really delighted to be able to keep the Marriott in its place, and so we're looking forward to many, many more years there. In addition, at the airport, you may know, adjacent to the Sky Center office building that just opened, we have a beautiful atrium that enables our curbside for commercial operations outside. But there's a beautiful grass area that's located just to the south of that, and that's not for soccer playing. We do anticipate in the future that that would be the home for an additional hotel property. And that is something that we've created and enabled, and we're looking for the right opportunity, the right timing, and nothing more that we can say about it other than we have preserved and protected that capacity for the future.
Thank you.
Good information. Ms. Placencia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris, thank you for a lot of things. To you, to Joe, Tony, Veronica, Dan, the rest of the team. What you guys are doing there is phenomenal. I travel a lot. There's nothing better than flying out of Tampa Bay, out of Tampa International Airport, except flying back in. So thank you. Could you address or speak to your efforts in terms of international travel? You mentioned some underserved markets like Rome. Talk about additional traffic out of the UK or out of Latin America, because those are areas that really drive a lot of extended stay travel into this region. Where do you see that going, say, over the course of the next 3 to 5?
There is tremendous opportunity, and the facilities that we're building at the airport reflect that opportunity, because Airside D will have 16 gates, and every single one of them will be both domestic and international capable. When we look to Europe, with the addition in November of last year of Virgin Atlantic, who has gotten off to a roaring start, we have seen record numbers of passengers coming in from the United Kingdom. We now are one of only 4 airports in all of the United States to have nonstop flights both to London's Gatwick Airport on British Airways and also London Heathrow on Virgin Atlantic. And so that gives us a unique advantage as far as that goes. There is additional opportunity within the United Kingdom. We're looking at Manchester as a major market, number of airlines that are operating there. And then just across the water in Ireland as well, Dublin continues to be a focus for us as well. I talked about Amsterdam. That is an absolute no-brainer. It really just comes down to the timing of capacity and the fit strategically for the airline to bring that market back, but we've demonstrated the profitability of that market, and so we're eager to see it come back. Beyond that, in Europe, there's a number of other opportunities, and I listed those on the unserved market slide. But the fact that it's a large O&D doesn't necessarily mean that an airline will see that it's the most profitable opportunity for them. So that's something that we're entirely data-driven when we focus on those market opportunities. We identify where we can make the business case to the airline that not only would it be profitable for them to fly to Tampa International Airport, but among all the places all over the world that they could deploy that aircraft, that this will be the most profitable. And if we can convince them of that, it makes it very easy for them to come in, and with the partnership of Visit Tampa Bay and our other community partners, they're confident that they can see that success. Within the Caribbean, we're now up to 10 destinations served, so that's massive growth versus when we first got here 13 years ago. Into Latin America, Bogota, Colombia is a massive market with a diaspora of Colombians who have moved here, especially from South Florida, with the increasing cost of real estate down there. You look at Lima, Peru, is the largest, fastest growing airline hub for LATAM Airways. And so that would provide connectivity all over South America for us, as well as Sao Paulo in Brazil. I mentioned Breeze, but the founder of Breeze is David Neeleman, who also started Azul in Brazil. And that's the second largest carrier in Brazil, and we are in ongoing conversations with them. They serve multiple daily flights into Orlando, and we think that there's a tremendous opportunity for them to have nonstop flights here as well. And I think internationally, probably the other one that I would be remiss not mentioning is Mexico City. That is a market that is screaming for nonstop flights, not only to bring guests here from Mexico, but also to serve the robust business market between Tampa Bay and the capital of Mexico. Right now, there is a security restriction in place that the federal government has imposed on Mexico. We think that we're very close to seeing that lifted, actually in the next 2 weeks. I'm sending my team to Mexico City, meeting with multiple Mexican airlines, and we just want to make sure that when that barrier is lifted, that we're at the front of the line to get nonstop flights here.
Are things loosening up on the visa front with inbound travelers?
That is one of the biggest challenges that we face. We're working very closely with a number of partners to press the case that we need to see visa restrictions, especially for inbound travelers, facilitated in a much better way. When it takes months and months and months to get your visa processed, there's just other places that you can go. And so we know for a fact that we're losing out on opportunity for that. So from a legislative standpoint, from a lobbying standpoint, that's one of our core priorities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Morrison?
Chris, like Lou, I've had a chance to do a little travel recently, and to both Cincinnati and New Orleans. And both of my sons made the same comment independently, which was, why are we walking so far? Because in Cincinnati and New Orleans, even with the improvements and the expansion they've done, their sense was correctly, the walking that they do in those two airports far exceed what we do here. So again, congratulations to the team for keeping that 1972 concept in mind of minimizing the walking distance for our potential passengers and guests. The question I have for you is based around capacity. When the convention center was built, we all understood that it was designed to accommodate 90% of all conventions in America. We've proven that number wasn't exactly correct. We hosted some that were too large, well, deemed to be too large at the time, like the Republican National Convention. My question to you is, when we look at the airport and the number of gates that are being added, I assume the master plan has a sense of what is the maximum that we can accommodate in terms of flights or airlines coming in and out. Update us a bit as to where we stand with when the expansions are complete. Where will we stand in terms of capacity, and how many airlines can we really accommodate?
Thank you. Excellent question. When Airside D is complete, that adds 16 gates to the portfolio. And our master plan tells us that that should accommodate 35 million annual passengers. I mentioned in the presentation, next year, we anticipate 25 million, so that's a tremendous amount of growth. When that airside opens, not only is it just those 16 gates that get activated, but it will give our team the ability to rebalance our facilities as well and relocate to ensure that we've got an even distribution of passenger traffic and airline activity at all of our airsides. It'll really optimize the utilization of the overall campus. Beyond that, you're looking at a north terminal concept, and easily that would be able to double the capacity of Tampa International Airport. So we're a fast-growing market. We love that, and we just want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to accommodate that. Honestly spoken, the biggest pinch point that we're going to have is getting passengers to and from the airport. Joe loves to say that you can fly them in 500 miles an hour from Europe, and then if they have to sit on the freeway, that's not a good look. And again, it's not unlike the conversation about visas. People go where they know that they can have a guarantee of a convenient and good time. So we're very concerned about travel and transportation within the region. We're delighted that we're seeing some headway. We have dramatically expanded public transportation access. We have 8 different bus lines that now serve Tampa International Airport, express service to Pasco County, express service to Pinellas. But there's so much more that needs to happen in that regard. And that really will be the key to unlocking all of the capacity that we're ready to deliver at the airport.
Any other questions, comments for Chris? Mr. Collier.
Comment. So when Lou and I were there, George Bean was running the airport, and they didn't sell gum. They didn't allow gum at Tampa International Airport because they didn't want people sticking it and cleaning it up and all that. Well, the airport Marriott was in charge of that long hallway there where the tenants used to be.
The arcade.
And there used to be a tenant there that, kind of like a Broadway store, you could go in there and get a chainsaw and a men's suit and, and a Rolex. And that guy would have the black market gum under the counter. And, so you'd say, oh, you want some gum? You pull the gum out, And one time I was in there and I saw that occur and George Bean was standing right there.
Oh.
Yeah, and he called me and we had to go ahead and kick that tenant out, for his black market gum selling way.
That's a hot market.
Anyways, love that area.
All right, well, Chris, thank you for the presentation. Your comments are very informative. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
Ron, do we have any other items?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I've got just a couple comments I wanted to make. One, September 11th, 12th, we are hosting the American Hotel Lodging Association Hotel Investor Roundtable at the Addition on Water Street. And this is a group of the largest hotel brands, Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, Intercon, the largest hotel developers and owners, Blackstone, Starwood, Brookfield. It's CEOs, chief development officers, chief investment officers. We typically meet, I belong to this group, we typically meet in major gateway markets around the U.S. and worldwide. And this is the first time we're not meeting in a gateway market, unless you want to call Tampa a gateway market now, in quite some time. And they wanted to come here to see what is going on here. So just wanted to alert you to that. And then secondly, I know we have a lot of hoteliers and owners that pay attention to this session. I spoke about this at the Hotel Motel Association meeting recently. Insurance costs for hotels is through the roof. We're seeing 20–30% on the residential side. We're seeing 200% and 300% increases on the hotel front, which is ludicrous. Not only are premiums costing more, but the amount of coverage that you can get is being cut. It's in many cases being limited to no more than $50 million. It's something that the state in particular is going to have to address. It's a big issue that's affecting ownership. The fact that hotels are paying so much more in insurance means there's less profitability. It means that there are, you're now in some cases not able to pay your loan because you're paying insurance. So now you are in default of your loan, or you don't have enough coverage, enough insurance coverage to meet your loan requirements, which is throwing your loan into default. So I just raise that as a yellow flag and maybe even a red flag. It's something that we're all going to have to deal with here in this community. I wanted to make owners aware of that. And then the last point I'd make is we're going through a tough time economically across the country. Tampa seems to be faring much better. The Hillsborough County area seems to be faring much better than other markets. But I would admonish hotel operators, some of us in this room, to not capitulate on rate. Don't start dropping average daily rate, because if you do, it'll take you 2 to 3 years to build back up to where you were 2 to 3 years prior. I think it's really important. We're starting to see rate decline already. You saw it in the numbers that Santiago presented. So it's critical that we hold the line on ADR. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.